Well, okay, it was the weekend and a lot has happened since Friday, so let's recap. You know who was airlifted to Walter Reed Medical Center for COVID treatment. His army of doctors spent the weekend giving a very positive outlook, while his chief of staff, Mark Meadows, said such things were more serious than you know. And then you know who posted this message from the hospital yesterday. Take a look.
It's been a very interesting journey. I learned a lot about COVID. I learned it by really going to school. This is the real school. This isn't the let's read the book school. And I get it, and I understand it, and it's a very interesting thing, and I'm going to be letting you know about it.
Yeah, and so right after that, he broke quarantine to jump in an SUV for a drive-by photo op. And, you know, so the doctors say, no, he's really sick, then he isn't really sick, and then he's getting really sick. You know, let's not kid ourselves. He's the head of the free world, so he's, whatever they're giving him to pump him up and make him look like he ain't sick. So does this seem like he's a changed man to you, Joy? Does he get it now?
Well, when I'm watching that the parade yesterday with him in the car, that was right out of a dictator's playbook, you know? Parade the dictator around so that the world and the country can see that he's still alive and he's still robust. But, you know, I thought to myself, usually the hostages are not driving the car. The thing about getting it, he suddenly gets it now. Now that I get it, there's the coronavirus, it's not a hoax anymore. That's what he learned. He didn't learn that 200,000 people and counting have died from this. Do you know that they're projecting 1 out of 10 in the world will have the coronavirus? That comes to, I figured the whole thing out, about 750 million people will get it. In the Spanish flu, 500 million people got it because this population was lower in those days. You know, but here's the good news I wanted to say. The fact that he has the virus prevents other people from getting it now because he's in quarantine and he won't be spreading it all over the place at his rallies to his supporters who believe him and don't wear masks. So that's the good part of this.
Right. So do you think this was his attempt to assure the public that he's okay, Sonny?
Well, I do think it was his way of trying to assure the public that he is okay. And I think that's, of course, very important for a president to do because it is a matter of national security, right? But I don't think that's the way to do it. You don't reassure the public by signing, I don't know, a empty sheet of paper with a Sharpie and pretend that you're working on nothing. And I also don't think the way to do it is to, as Joy mentioned, drive in a motorcade with Secret Service agents in a hermetically sealed vehicle. Because remember, those vehicles are sealed to prevent a chemical attack from attacking the president. So that means it seals the, yes, a chemical attack. So that means it seals the virus inside. So he is infectious. And those Secret Service agents, then, their lives were put at risk by this president. They have families that they want to go home to as well. So what that told me was, by his reckless actions, he didn't care about the very people who are sworn to protect him. So that is not reassuring to me. If he doesn't care about those people, does he care about the rest of the country? So that was a really just terrible act of negligence in trying to assure the country.
So, Sarah, what did you make of the motorcade?
I thought the motorcade was irresponsible and extremely selfish. We've had very clear guidelines that when you've been exposed yourself to you have the virus, you isolate. When you've been exposed to the virus, you quarantine. We've had state, you can't even travel right now to certain states, even if you've had no exposure, without quarantining by choice, just for precaution. In the one video, he talks about, I didn't want to be stuck in the White House. They told me to go upstairs and to quarantine, and he didn't want to do that. He wanted to be right out in front. So I just think it was a slap in the face to so many people who have dealt with this pandemic since, you know, the beginning of the year and have not been able to say goodbye to loved ones, who have missed life events, who just stay at home now and don't go out, and it's because that's what the doctors told us. So to have him optically do this, it was selfish, but we know that vulnerability is his Achilles heel, and the most vulnerable you could be right now at this today is to have the virus that's sweeping the globe.
Right. Anna, what did you think about all of these plot twists over the weekend? I mean, did it make any sense?
Whoopi, I don't know how many Americans felt like I did, but I can tell you on Friday I felt a lot of sympathy. And when we saw the chopper that was going to airlift him on the South Lawn, my heart skipped a beat, because whether I like him or not, he's the president of the United States, and no normal human wants another human being to suffer harm or get very, very sick or die. But as we went through the weekend, and I saw more video of him mocking Hillary Clinton when she had pneumonia in 2016, of these super spreader events that have been held in the White House, where now so many we know have gotten infected. When we learned about the hubris and arrogance of the Trump kids at that debate, who got asked by Cleveland Clinic representatives to wear a mask and refused to do so. And then when we saw him flaunt his privilege and go out on that motorcade. Look, my best friend's aunt, her Aunt Marion, died of COVID. My husband's son-in-law's father, 68-year-old Cesar, died of COVID. And let me tell you, they didn't get to leave the hospital. They were laying in hallways because there were no empty rooms where they could be. They had to say goodbye to their loved ones on FaceTime. Okay, many of them couldn't get plasma. It took days and days. They couldn't get remdesivir because there was a shortage in the worst times when that happened in places like Miami and New York. So the treatment he's getting at taxpayer expense is privileged treatment that the President of the United States receives. And for him to flaunt it by going out there like if he's Queen Elizabeth, waving from the motorcade and from the limousine, while so many sick people didn't get the same chance or the same treatment, didn't have 10 doctors in a team attending to his beck and call. Well, it's just so insensitive, and it angered me and angered me and angered me the more the weekend went by.
Well, I got to say the same thing. You know, I have the same sympathy that they exhibited for Kristen Yukase. She's the young lady that was at the Democratic convention, and she was very angry at you-know-who because she said, my father's only pre-existing condition was trusting you-know-who. And he was a factory worker, supported the president and believed him about the virus. And they mocked her. They mocked her. I guess he's forgotten. He says he gets it now. You can't possibly get it. You didn't go through it. Whatever you have or whatever you got, they got to you and they gave you everything you needed to do. But everybody else, the rest of the people of the United States of America, don't get to do what you do. They don't get to do what you do. And not only do people die from this and continue to die from it, you just basically said to everybody, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can do, look at me, look at what I'm doing. But we're not you. Thank God.